Item 10B, adopt a resolution supporting Marymount subdivision resident petition to transfer territory from the South San Francisco Unified School District to the San Bruno Park School District and the San Mateo High School Unified District.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This item is kind of an interesting one in that it comes forward at a point in time where an unusual situation has existed for a very, very long time, relatively unimpactful until fairly recently. And that is, this item is to support a petition by the residents, initiated by residents of the Marymount subdivision, which, as I think you know, was developed in the beginning in about 2006 through about 2008 by Summerhill Homes off of Evergreen Drive on the site of San Bruno Park School District's former Carl Sandburg School. This location is within the Rollingwood area and at the far northern border of our community, adjacent to the city of South San Francisco. I mentioned that this item results from a petition initiated by, or an initiative of residents of this Marymount subdivision. I would note at the outset here that the city has not received a request from those residents or from anybody other than itself to take this action, but staff concurs with a request that we received from the the subcommittee that represents us in collaboration with the school district, council members Medina and Salazar, who work together with a subcommittee of the school board to address various issues of our collaboration and coordination within the community. Just very briefly on a historical explanation of what this situation is that in 1961, San Bruno Park School District developed the Carl Sandburg School on the 10-acre site in the location that I've just described. As you know, in 2005, the school district surplused and sold that site to Summerhill Homes with the stated intent by Summerhill Homes to develop a residential subdivision. They did so, and those homes were, those 70 homes that were developed by Summerhill were sold to new residents of San Bruno who have, since they moved in, enthusiastically embraced the opportunity to be a part of the San Bruno community. This is a very active and very collaborative, obviously, community, and one that relishes the opportunity to be part of the San Bruno community in all ways. Unfortunately for them, they were surprised to discover in approximately 2009 by an astute resident looking at their tax bill that there was an allocation on their tax bill for property taxes being paid to the South San Francisco Unified School District. Upon questioning that revelation, the residents learned that, in fact, that piece of property, that 10-acre site, is actually within the jurisdictional boundaries of that school district and not those school districts serving the city of San Bruno. And as you know, there are two school districts that otherwise serve the residents of San Bruno. Those are the San Bruno Elementary School District, San Bruno Park School District that serves K through 8 students, and the San Mateo Union High School District that serves high school age students. Upon making that discovery and the subsequent inquiries that the residents made to try and understand the situation, as I indicated, it was discovered that the property in which they live is actually part of the South San Francisco Unified School District. And over the course of that discussion, they were directed that their home area of attendance would be in South San Francisco. And if residents of the Marymount subdivision wanted to have their students attend schools in San Bruno, or frankly anywhere else other than South San Francisco, those families would need to complete the interdistrict transfer permit process and receive approval every year by both the San Bruno School District as well as the South San Francisco School District, which creates a level of complexity and burden for those families that some have frankly chosen just not to bother with. As I indicated, let me give you just a little bit more historical background. In investigating the situation, what the residents discovered was that although the school had been built and operated by the San Bruno Park School District beginning in 1961 through the time that that school closed in 1978, for the majority of that period of time, that property actually was physically located in the unincorporated San Mateo County territory. In 1977, that property was annexed to the city of San Bruno. Unfortunately, annexation, and apparently during the time of this property being in the unincorporated San Mateo County, it was assigned to the South San Francisco Unified School District. Unfortunately, at the time of the annexation of the property to the city of San Bruno, an annexation to the jurisdictional boundaries of the San Bruno school districts did not occur. So the property remained in the South San Francisco Unified School District territory, where that issue did not attract any attention or create any issues or any concern during the entire period of time that it was a school site. There was no taxes were collected or exchanged, and until the property was developed for residential use, the situation simply existed and, as I indicated, did not create any attention or issue. It was, however, at the time that the residents discovered this anomaly and began to question it, that there ensued a situation where the districts, South San Francisco and San Bruno districts, could not reach an agreement about tax sharing that would have allowed students to regularly attend San Bruno schools. So the residents initiated a petition to the San Mateo County Office of School Organization, I think it's called, through the County Office of Education. That petition was heard by that office, and it was approved. The approval decision was subsequently appealed by the South San Francisco Unified School District and is now pending a decision and action by the State Board of Education. That action or that hearing will occur at the upcoming State Board meeting on March 11th and 12th in Sacramento. And it's my understanding that residents from the Marymount subdivision who've now been on this since approximately 2012 will be in attendance and will be representing their case and their interest, which frankly is really a pretty simple one. And the two things that really stood out for me were, number one, being able to really fully engage as residents of San Bruno, having the opportunity not just to enjoy community activities, parks and recreation programs and the like, but to have their students be able to attend school with their friends and neighbors in the San Bruno community, and to actually be able to, for those families, to be able to engage like others in San Bruno within the school community, which, as we know, is a vibrant and active social network, as well as many others in our community. A second issue that stood out in my review of this issue and in learning a little bit about this anomalous situation was that situation that you may recall from the time that the Marymount subdivision was developed, and that was that as part of that development, there was a specific decision, as it turns out, by the city of South San Francisco to physically block the opportunity for roadway connection between Evergreen, or the Marymount subdivision, and into South San Francisco. So there's a road, my recollection is anyway, that there's a road that is essentially physically blocked. So it's not convenient for residents of the Marymount subdivision physically to get to school in South San Francisco. That's a long ways around in another direction. And I think that the residents are correct in some of the materials that I read, that situation appears to indicate what I think is true, that nobody really knew. Nobody really was paying any attention. As I mentioned, it didn't create any issues until residents moved into the subdivision. But nobody really knew that this property was not already incorporated into the boundaries of the San Bruno school districts. In fact, the residents were informed, and all of the documentation that they have been able to amass in this extensive effort that they've undertaken indicates that everybody thought that the property was served by San Bruno schools. And so the residents bought their properties and, as I said, happily engaged in San Bruno with that understanding and that expectation. So the item that's before you tonight, again, is the initiative of your City Council subcommittee to support, to just adopt a resolution of support that would bolster, hopefully, the residents' initiative upcoming before the State Board of Education to correct a situation that's existed for a very long time, that has, as I said, gone undetected, and which would be of their interest and their initiative to fully engage and become members of the San Bruno community in all ways that other residents are. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Any questions? Ken?
I'm not laughing at the reporter, but you did say something that just sort of, when you said that it seems like a simple thing to change, and we've been here a long time on this council, and I distinctly remember the fight for Portola, the Portola Highlands annexation, and how many years that took, and how it simply was a district not wanting to give up the revenue of those students. And when you sit and I just shake my head when it says it's up to the state, but there's going to undoubtedly South San Francisco is going to fight for those students because it's revenue. And I am just appalled that and I heard about this a couple of years ago. I was attending a San Bruno Park School District meeting, and a resident got up and made, stated the issue. And I just couldn't believe it, that after all this time that the San Bruno Park School District had fought for an annexation for Portola School, that we would go through this with, just seems like taking it for granted. And I see in the resolution that whereas residents have been repeatedly, consistently advised and relied upon information, and I don't blame our city. I mean, I actually blame the school district for not, assuring that when they sold the property. I can't believe it. And I remember reviewing that project, and South San Francisco was adamant. They did not want the traffic of that development to encumber their city. And so that was a big give to them. And I mean, at the very least, we should do this. And because these residents had every intention, understanding of coming to San Bruno schools, and they're being denied that.
If I might, I just address the revenue issue very briefly, and I will acknowledge at the front here that I don't know a lot about the details of the financial implications, but I think there's two interesting points about this. First of all, the South San Francisco Unified District, I believe, is a basic aid district, so they are reliant on property tax. That's what basic aid means. They don't get ADA monies or average daily attendance monies. They support themselves based on property tax. San Bruno Park School District has gone in and out of basic aid depending on the property tax level based on formulas that the state uses to determine. So tax revenue is an issue for the South San Francisco District. I think that's understandable. The second observation, though, that I would make is that there was no tax revenue, none at all, paid by the San Bruno Park School District under their ownership of the property for those many decades. And so it's only recently, and only with the development of the Marymount subdivision, that opportunity has existed. So it's it's not a situation where, at least to my understanding, that district would have had a historical reliance on property taxes that are now going to, after a very long time, go away. It's a matter of money that they didn't have and now have had for a short period of time would no longer be available. And there are legitimate financial issues, I believe, that have been mounted by the district in their appeal of the county board's decision. So I would expect those to be discussed at the state level when this comes up to them.
If I could, I mean, we're doing a resolution. Is there, and I realize that they haven't come forward to ask for city's help, but the city helped a lot with the Portola annexation when it got close, and I just think that maybe we should outreach to see what more we can do to help the cause and convince the state.
I'd be happy to do that if that's the council's interest.
Rico?
Through the chair. This is something that it was enlightened. I became aware of when I went up and had National Night Out. Just stopped by because the neighborhood was having a National Night Out. They had a Grundy Park, and so I went up there after. And lo and behold, I came up and was very much welcomed, and I appreciated and met Virginia. Virginia, who's the head petitioner, who has worked diligently up there to have all of this. A parent, a resident, in her spare time, having this done and going through all this process. Should have been taken care of last year, but it was delayed by the state, and so here it comes. So I spoke to Virginia today. We were talking about this, and she had an obligation, so she couldn't be here. But obviously, we don't have control over what the state does. To me, it's very straightforward. I know you made mention to have them feel to become part of San Bruno. I think they've always been San Bruno. They are San Bruno. They're a part of our community. Always has been. When I've been on city staff and Parks and Rec, that's where we practice when the school was closed for Pony. That's where the kids went to school, and those are programs that we participated in as a community and as a city. So it was silly to me to hear what they have to go through to enroll their kids in actually San Bruno schools, which, again, as the city manager said, I always found it ironic because I told them the city of South City put up a gate and didn't want you driving through their streets. There is only one way in and one way out, and that's through the city of San Bruno, and that is their home. So I don't know if any of my other colleagues have it, but I would like to introduce the resolution of supporting our community for their endeavor in March.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.